Welcome, everyone, Let'sRun.com supporters club members, our dedicated live viewers who are tuning in on a Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening if you're in Europe. This is the Let'sRun.com Track Talk podcast, Friday 15, Sunday edition, Silesia Diamond League edition, Sha'Carri Richardson, Jakob Ingebrigtsen edition. They were the big winners on Sunday. Richardson getting the head-to-head win over Jamaican champion Shericka Jackson in a terrific women's 100. Jakob Ingebrigtsen running yet another personal best, European record 3:27.14 to move to number 4 on the all-time list, behind only Hicham El Guerrouj, Bernard Lagat, and Asbel Kiprop. Fred Kerley was defeated in the men's 100 meters. It was his first loss in that event for over a year. Akane Simbine gets the win there. Wade Van Niekerk keeps getting better. Could he win an incredible gold medal at the World Championships in the 400 this year? He gets the win, 44.08 there, his fastest time in 6 years. Alisson dos Santos comes back, his season debut. He runs 44 seconds as well. Soufiane El Bakkali keeps winning in the men's steeplechase. Mary Moraa gets a season's best to win a fast women's 800 meters. And we had a terrific women's 1500. It was before the TV window, but we had 3 different Ethiopians run 3:55.0 or faster. Australian record by Lyndon Hall. 2 Brits under 4 minutes. Melissa Courtney Bryant, Gemma Reekie. It was a nice meet. It was a good afternoon. I wish it wasn't going up against the Wimbledon men's final, but, can't really... Well, I guess they could do something about that, and they didn't. But anyway, I enjoyed watching this meet. We got myself, Jonathan Galt, on the show. We've got Weldon Johnson and Robert Johnson as well to break it all down. Weldon, what stands out to you after that 2 hours of track and field?
I mean, the biggest storyline, John, Sha'Carri Richardson. The Europeans are finally seeing it. I didn't think she would beat Shericka Jackson here, but she did. Does this make her the favorite for Worlds? She's undefeated. She just beat the fastest woman in the world, so...
I think it does, Weldon. We've said, well, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price. Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price hasn't run a 100-meter race, and it's July 16th. The World Championships are a month away. The women's final, the 100-meter final, is August 21st. It's a little concerning to me that she hasn't run 100, and she's got the championship pedigree. She's a 7-time global champion in the 100. I mean, she's the 100-meter GOAT. So would it shock me if she shows up and wins the whole thing? No, of course not. But she's 36 years old. She does seem to have been dealing with some injuries. And I don't know. I think unless she drops something between now and Budapest, I don't know if I can call her the favorite over someone like Sha'Carri Richardson, who has passed every test that's been put in front of her this year. I mean, look at what she's done. She opened up with that windy 10.57 back in April. Everyone's like, oh, okay, well, let's see what she does the rest of the year. What does she do the rest of the year? She shows up to Doha. She beats Shericka Jackson, gets the win there, her first Diamond League win ever. Shows up to USA's, runs a PB in the rounds, doesn't get a great start in the final, but still comes through to win that. Now, 1 week later, she's running against Shericka Jackson, who is in the form of her life, who just ran 10.65 at the Jamaican Championships. Everyone says, okay, this will be a big test. She has to fly out to Europe. She's coming down off a high of USA's. Can she respond? Hell yes, she could. She was behind halfway through. She didn't break form. She looked very strong. She runs down Shericka Jackson, 10.76 to 10.78. She has done everything you could have asked of her this year in the 100 meters, Weldon. So yeah, I would say she's the favorite for the World Championships right now.
Some interesting comments here in the chat. For those who didn't see the race, we'll get into it in a second. But Thomas Lester saying Shericka shut it down after 65 to 70 meters. No, I'm sorry. Well, if she did, this is the best game ever of what would you call that? Rope-a-dope? Slightly let up, make her be overconfident for the Worlds, and then go and smoke her at the Worlds. No, I didn't see that. Otto Bolden didn't see that. The people on the international feed didn't see that. If you look at the race, and this was one thing that was impressive for me, Sha'Carri was behind early. She didn't then I think it's easier to be ahead. She did not let the pressure get to her. Shericka's a better 200-meter runner, and she ran her down. That's how I looked at it. I mean, it's a little misleading because I think sometimes the people in the bottom of the track and the outside lanes look ahead. I don't know. But like there's a screenshot up here, or actually, maybe actually it's somewhat misleading, but they're pretty much dead even, and Sha'Carri goes on to get the huge win.
Sha'Carri was behind. I think it was the angle, the television angle. You can see it a little better. I just watched the race 2 more times. Shericka Jackson did not shut it down. She got beat at the end of the race. She ran 10.78. It wasn't a bad race for Shericka Jackson, but she's going up against Sha'Carri Richardson, who's one of the best in the world. Absolutely, Shericka Jackson, who has a long history of success at global championships, could she beat Sha'Carri at Worlds? Absolutely. I think they're pretty evenly matched, but I don't think we need to discredit what was a great run by Sha'Carri by saying, oh, Shericka let her win or she shut it down or anything like that.
Yeah, I think it's a total disservice. And then you heard this, roar go up afterwards. They were cheering for the Polish woman. So Voboda, who went, I guess, sub 11 for the first time. And I give it to the Poles. Like, I give it to everyone for this race. We've had all of these great men's 100-meter matchups not happen this year. Well, essentially, Fred Curley versus Marcel Jacobs, which is the one that everyone wanted. I just somehow thought earlier in the week this one wasn't going to happen. Sha'Carri coming in after the U.S. Championship win. Shericka after smoking the Jamaican Championships. I'm like, there's some way they duck each other? But no. And the Poles didn't try to water this thing down. They've set up a great race. So they get a PB by the Polish woman and a great race up front. This one delivered.
Yeah, it's what we always ask for in the sport, Weldon, right? We want the biggest stars, the biggest athletes in the biggest events racing each other. We don't need it every week. If we had Sha'Carri Richardson against Shericka Jackson every single Diamond League 100, we'd probably get tired of it. We'd start complaining it's too much. But what we had is the perfect amount of matchups between them. We had them in Diamond League opener in Doha. They go head-to-head. We had them here a month out from Worlds, right after they've both run big races at their national championships. And now they don't need to race next week. I don't care if they're Diamond Leagues in Monaco and London. They don't need to do against each other. We got a taste, and now we'll have the rubber match, the one that really matters. Things will be settled in Budapest. But it's awesome to see them go head-to-head. Now we don't have to say, oh, how would they do against each other? No, we've seen it twice already. I love it. I'm glad that they showed up. It was awesome for the sport.
It was great. Robert Johnson, I think, is joining us. Robert, we're getting some background noise from you, but
can you hear me?
Have any
yes,
comments?
We can.
Yes, sound good now.
A few things. One, Weldon, can you upload a few pictures to WordPress? I need a photo for the front page article that is now up there. Sha'Carri's definitely should be ahead of the betting odds as the number one choice. I think if you were smart right now, she would not be a greater than 50% chance. But the thing that struck out to me, John, and I think you had the stat, or was it intern Alex? Someone had the stat. I think they were talking about the men's 100 or somewhere. We saw this recently. Generally, the fastest person wins the world championship. Oh, it was in your article on Christian Coleman. And
the stat is that the person with the best top speed, they've studied about 24, 27 global 100-meter finals on the men's side. The person with the best top speed has won that race every year but one, and that was 2017 in London. So, who has the best top speed of Sha'Carri Richardson and Shericka Jackson? I don't know if I know enough about the sprints to really say that. I mean, Shericka's run 21.45 for the 100, so that's ridiculous. Sorry, for the 200, which is incredible top speed, but Sha'Carri can get up there as well in the middle of the race. So, I don't know. I think they're pretty evenly matched.
The top speed today was clearly Sha'Carri. I thought, she's going to run her down, and she did. So that was very good for her. But it was a narrow margin of victory here. It's not going to be a one-off. It's going to be about who can run two races in one day the best. And, Sha'Carri at USA's was running some incredible times early in the rounds and not as fast in the final. So if she doesn't run as fast as she does in this race, If she's a little bit slower in this race, she loses. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not a foregone conclusion. And then I think if you throw in Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, despite the 100, she would be getting 20% odds. So I think the odds that one of the Jamaicans wins it would be greater than 50%. But I think Sha'Carri is definitely your favorite when you beat the world leader twice. How can you not be the favorite?
Well, I guess the argument for Jackson, Robert, would be she has run faster this year, 10.65, and her 10.65 came in a final when she'd already run a prelim earlier in the day, whereas Sha'Carri's 10.71 season's best was in the first round in Eugene. I'm still saying Richardson's the favorite, but like you, I'm not saying she's like, if you take her versus the field, give me the field.
Some of these comments are fascinating. I love the internet, John. Up the vibe. They're sticking to it. People really believe Jackson was running all out. I've seen enough to know that Jackson going to smoke everyone at the World Championships. I'm not buying it, but there's another guy here. Robs, I saw Jackson at the Jamaican Championships. You guys really think Jackson gave it her all? LOL.
You really think that she just sandbagged a Diamond League 100 against Sha'Carri Richardson? You think she wasn't trying to win? She'd fly to Poland just to shut it down after 70 meters? That sounds even more insane than what these people are suggesting here.
I agree here with Joel. Her PR is a 10.6. But Jacko's a consistent 10.7 runner. This is a typical Jacko race, and she lost it. It's okay. I think that's the better analysis. She ran, 10.6 at the Jamaican Championships? This was a good time. She ran 10.7. She just got beat.
Yeah.
I mean, this was fast across the board. But, wow. There's other comments here, John. 10 minutes in, and no Jakob discussion. And I was wondering if we shouldn't even go there next. Do we go to the men's 100 meters? Because I thought this race was interesting. This race might have... Well, hold on. This race deserves some props. I mean, I guess they had the Polish woman in the 100. That's probably why it went last. But if we're talking about gender equity, I was shocked to see the men's 100, the second event of the day, on TV. I'm like, whoa, these should be back-to-back at the end. But they ended with the women's 100. It was the better matchup. But we also have to talk about Fred Curley getting beat. But I think you're not going to let me go there next.
I'd rather talk about Jakob. I think more of our fans would like to hear us talk about Jakob. But I agree. The men's 100, it was a good matchup, too. The women's 100 was better. The women's 100 was deservedly the last event, and it lived up to it. But
Can I have one criticism of the women's 100? Great for them putting it last, but the commentating was... I've got a lot of criticism of the commentating. You know me, I always like to watch a Diamond League meet and just complain about it. Like, they just went to the women's 100 like it was another ho-hum event. They should have said, like, this is the one we've been waiting for. And this is the problem when you have two distance people as the commentators, right? Like, they should have been hyping this up. Like, oh, this is a big one. Sha'Carri versus Shericka. Number 1 versus number 2. Like, this should have been hyped up and presented more as a bigger event than the other 20 events they had here. And, they did say these are the two people to watch. And maybe it was the classic British understatement. But if you need to fire a Brit and get somebody an American, you Brits, John, you guys are a little bit too proper sometimes. They could have hyped that one up a little bit more. But let's go to the right before that, the men's 1500. Jakob Ingebrigtsen does it again. We had 3 pacers. They wanted to run fast. They wanted Stewie McSwain instead of racing. Did he finish, by the way, John, or did he drop out? They wanted Stewie McSwain, who's one of the top 20 milers in the world, to rabbit, and they got him. So they had 3 pacers, including Sawinski, who apparently got there at the last minute, and they were right on it. They were actually a little bit ahead of pace, and it was interesting. Ingebrigtsen was gapped a little bit for the first 700, and then it was almost... Or was it for the first? When did he catch up to McSwain? Was it 1100?
Yeah, I think it was around 1K 1100.
And then he catches up, and then he just, was just magnificent. And it was interesting. He even had something again in the last 150 because you could see him chasing the lights and stuff. 327.14. Abel Kipsang 329.11. Chariot 330.30. Wait, that's Timothy Chariot, 330.30?
No, Raynald Chariot.
Oh, okay.
Robert, you're going to have to move your little microphone a little further from your face. But yeah, he won this thing by daylight, 3:27.14 European record. Abel Kipsang, who was fourth in the Olympics, runs a PB, and he's second, distant second, 3:29.11. Raynald Chariot. Andrew Koskarin. I mean, what a weekend for Coach Phelan Kelly, friend of Let'sRun.com. Yesterday, Brian Fay runs 13:01 Irish record in the 5K. Today, another one of his athletes, Andrew Koskarin, 3:30.42, obliterates his own Irish record, which was 3:32.68 from earlier this year. Sam Tanner, 3:31 PB. Vincent Kita, 3:31 PB. Isaac Nader of Portugal, 3:31 PB. George Mills, 3:31 PB. And 17-year-old Cameron Myers of Australia, 11th place. He takes almost 2 seconds off his PB, 3:33.26. The only guy who didn't have a good one in this race was, well, I guess Azzedine Habs, the 3:29 guy from France, was only 3:31. Sam Prakel, dead last in 3:40. That's unfortunate for him after coming so close to the US trials.
But what was fascinating about this race, I mean, another maestro performance from Ingebrigtsen. But what was shocking to me was in these other races, when he's been running fast, there's been people near him throughout. An Ollie Hoare, you're getting a goose. They run right behind him. And then he just has something in the last 150. In this race, there was a gap between the Rabbits and Ingebrigtsen, and then a gap between Ingebrigtsen and everybody else pretty much the whole way. Maybe one of the Kenyans was near Ingebrigtsen for a bit. But I had always said, why doesn't Ingebrigtsen, and I think our intern Alex is going to try to ask this in the mix zone, why doesn't he practice just getting rid of the Rabbits? Because he's not going to have anyone to draft off of after Worlds. And this should give, in my mind, this race, not only the time, but the way it was run should give him a lot of confidence for Worlds. Because while the fact was he did have Rabbits, he was not drafting off of them for most of that race, John. There was a gap. I mean, maybe it was helping a tiny bit, but this was basically I don't want to say solo because they paid 3 Rabbits a lot of money, and he had Wavelight, which he won't have at Worlds. But this should give him a lot of confidence.
I had the same takeaway, Robert. I don't think he was getting much of a drafting benefit. There was maybe some psychological benefit to seeing those guys in front of you. And I don't think the Rabbits did a bad job. I mean, they were a little ahead of him, but they basically hit the paces they were assigned, and Jakob realized it was maybe a tad too aggressive and backed off slightly. I thought they did fine. The thing about this that, the reason he didn't have as many people with him is you were missing some of the best guys in the event. There was no Mokatir, there was no Yared Nuguse, no Timothy Chariot, no Mario Garcia Roma, Ollie Hoare. Raynald Chariot and Kipsang are good, but I think there are better guys than them in the world right now. But my question to you after this race, Robert, we said, well, not always, but we said last year, if Jakob wants to front run this thing, meaning the World Championship final, and beat everyone, he needs to be maybe a second and a half, 2 seconds better than everyone else. And I don't think he was at that level last year. But now running 3:27.14, Mohamed Katir is number 2 on the 2023 world list at 3:28.89. So that is 1.75 seconds slower than Ingebrigtsen ran today. Do you think, given how he ran the race and given that gap to the number 2 guy, is he fit enough to drop everyone from the front in the World Championship final now?
I think he is. No, I'd feel more confident. I thought we always said 2 to 3 seconds, and he's close to 2. But I don't. It's not going to be that hard for him to run. Well, not going to be that hard, but he can easily make it a 3:29 race. There aren't that many people who can run 3:29, but they get to draft off of him.
Well, then what do you think?
There's still going to be a reason why I'm watching that final.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Is he 2 seconds better than everyone else in the world? No, not a full 2. I'm still going to watch the final, John. It's just hard to. Is he going to really try to make it a 3:27 race? I think do I expect him to win the Worlds? What percent of the time does he win the Worlds? No way is it over 60%.
Oh,
I think it's just hard in this event. I mean, maybe it's 2-1, but
I might put it at 70%.
That's why I just love this event, dude. I think the other guys are pretty good. 70, okay, somewhere around there. But
what is his? I think his strategy is to try to run
question mark
327.
also is
I don't
like
think
he said I want to see a 6. Maybe a lag between you and me or something. We try to overtalk each other. Sorry. He was saying beforehand, I want to see a 6. And it's very methodical, because if you get to a 6, you're less than a second in the world record. In my opinion, just might as well want to see a 5. But for the first time ever, I had never done this. I'm like, what pace is 326? You have to run under 55 seconds the entire way. It's like 54.93. But if you kick he gets there at 1,200 meters, and I guess McSwain was 246.8. And I'm like, wow, if you kick, you're gonna get close. There's some possibility. So he's in the realm now. You can see the record go down, which is a testament to him. It's also a testament to, my God, how fast El Garouche ran 25 years ago. No super shoes.
Well,
some will say, hey,
no
it's a
super
different
shoes,
era
but
for other reasons. But
yeah, 327.14. This was
John. What's the Irish coach's name? Can you properly say his name? It's like the hardest name to just.
Phelim Kelly.
Well, I was going to wait to the regular podcast on Tuesday, and I still will do it there. But John, how you holding up? Devastating weekend for Jonathan Gault here. His boy, Andy Powell. I mean, there's a huge message board thread praising Andy Powell, but Brian Fay dumps Andy Powell, and within a week or two runs 1301. 1306 to 1301. Andy Powell couldn't even get this guy to score at NCAAs.
Yeah, I mean, I love how Robert half the time says coaching doesn't mean anything, and then the other half of the time, oh, coaching's so important. Who was the guy who got him to that fitness? I'm sure Phelim Kelly coached him before he got to UW in 2021, so you give him credit for that. But also, Andy Powell's been coaching him for the last 2 years, and then a month after NCAAs, he goes and runs 1301. I think Andy Powell got some credit for that. I think they're both great coaches, so they should both take some joy in that. It is pretty crazy a 1301 guy can't score at NCAAs, but he's also Irish, and I don't think the heat and humidity in Austin did him any favors. He's an Irish guy who trains in Seattle, and then he's supposed to go out and run in Austin, Texas. That just wasn't set up well for him.
And the other thing that happens at Worlds is in this 1500, what if the pace isn't even? What you saw here was no micro surges. These little surges. I say in the 800, you have one move, use it wisely. In the 1500, you might have 2 max, but there's a lot of times there's these mini surges which are adding up. And you saw with Ingebrigtsen, this guy, and I think this is one reason why he's so consistently so fast. Kiprop used to run these ridiculous first laps and then slow down. Ingebrigtsen realizes how to mete out his effort and be real consistent, and he can sense the difference between a 54.5 and a 55.5. But in the World Championship final, and I think this is the mistake that we had last year, but everyone may not just be content to let him win. What if somebody decides, I'm going to get in front of him, which I think is stupid, but there's no written rule that everyone's going to be smart. Somebody might try to get ahead of him. Or what would be interesting is, because if I'm Ingebrigtsen, what I thought he should have done at Worlds last year was somebody was willing to lead, and he was trying to fight them off. Who was that, John? Do you remember that?
Robert, this is a brilliant point. I was going to make it myself. It was Timothy Chariot. And if you remember, in Jakob's post-race interview, he complained about this. He was like, Chariot submarined his own race because he kept trying to pass me and run way too fast early. And that really threw Jakob off because he had to spend energy fighting him off. And I think mentally also that wasn't the kind of race he wanted. He wanted to be at the front. So in Budapest, I think the best way to try to beat him, and I don't know if, the OAC might have 3 guys in this final. They might try to say, hey, one of you guys try to attack him or something. But the best way for Jakob to lose is someone in that Chariot role tries to pester him and tries to get the lead from him at 400 meters or tries to throw in a surge at 600. And they force Jakob to fight for the lead or to either back off and cede the lead to someone else. If Jakob backs off and cedes the lead and that person keeps it up, then that's fine for Jakob. But if that person takes the lead and then slows it down, that's not the kind of race
exactly.
Jakob won. So
what he should have done last year was just let him lead. If somebody wants to lead, that's better, dude. Somebody's being your rabbit. Thank you very much. We have ample evidence. How many races do we have this year? 4 or 5, where if it's rabbited, he's the best in the world, and it's not really even that close to worry about. So, but what I'm thinking about in the world is somebody could be leading. If he lets them lead, that's fine, but they also might get in the lead and then slow down or get in his way, or they're on the outside of the lane. He'd have to use more effort to get around them than in a rabbit where the rabbit steps off the track for you. So there could be things like that where your pace is not even, it's not consistent. The guys behind you are running even consistent. You know, Thomas Lester says, what happens if 3 Kenyans get in the final and use team tactics? But again, someone's going to have to kind of sacrifice themselves to beat them. But the lack of the evenness of the pace, you know, when Citrich won from the front in Rio, you know, I'm sure there was accelerations to keep the lead pretty much, but it was smooth sailing for him. Nobody came around him. Nobody made surges.
Jakob's so strong that even if it's an uneven pace or anything like that, I mean, he'd still have a great chance to win. But I think that's the best shot at someone when he's this fit. The best shot is someone throwing him off his game, forcing him to spend effort in parts of the races where he doesn't want to spend it. So,
well, right. And plus, if he's used to meeting out the first 800 so perfectly. I think it's different physiologically. If he has to run the first 300 faster than he would like, you know, even look how smooth he is. And all this. He always goes out slow for the first 150 and then gradually moves it up. And he was doing that today. He didn't catch those rabbits to 1,000. He was running so consistent. And a world championship final is not going to be like that. You know, is this guy a rhythm runner like Weldon Johnson was?
All right. Do we want to talk at all about Cameron Myers? I continue to be amazed by this guy. Like during the Australian summer, so all winter, he was running PBs who are like, wow, could he be the youngest sub 4 miler ever? He just missed out on that by, a week or two, but he ran 3:55 at age 16 back in February. 3:55 mile. He was second in the Australian Championships. And then he comes over for the European summer. I'm like, all right, that's pretty great. But can he really how much faster can he go? He's already run so fast, so young. He turned 17 on June 9th and runs 3:36 in his first European race, 2-second PB, then another 3:36, then 3:35, then 3:35.0 a couple weeks ago. And now he's run 3:33 at the age of 17. I mean, this is phenomenal stuff. I know Ingebrigtsen got down to 3:31 by 17. He was the European champion at age 17. But, 3:33 at 17, it's phenomenally fast. I'm just so impressed. His first European summer, and he's just his first Diamond League race. He's shown no signs of slowing down. This kid's incredible.
He's impressive. Wasn't there somebody else? I said John, there was 2 guys racing this weekend that might be beating Ingebrigtsen in the years to come. This weekend, there's supposed to be 2 guys. John?
You wondering about Niels Laros? Let's Run podcast guest?
Can't remember. Did he run today?
No. All right, we don't really need to dwell on that.
Impressive, Robert. But
well, we think you need to refresh your computer because you're way behind us.
All right, Robert. Any final thoughts on the 1500 here, or should we move on to that 100 that Weldon wanted to discuss?
No, but let's move to the men's 100. We had Curly. We had Simbini. I was really into Curly versus Charleston, the U.S. champion. The world champ versus the U.S. champ. Who was going to win? I didn't even know Simbini was in there. I wasn't worried about Simbini. Shimbini ended up winning it. Charleston got off to a good start, had the lead for, 85 meters probably. Did he end up fourth? Let's see where he ended up here.
Yeah, he was fourth. It was very, very tight across the line. I thought Emmanuel Aseme, who was in lane 1, the Cameroon guy who no one had ever heard of, I thought he had actually got it. But yeah, it was Simbine with the lean, then Curly, Aseme, Cleveland, Charleston. They were all separated by 200ths of a second. So
yeah, top four, 9797, 998, 998, 999. Johan Blake 1001. By the way, Akeem Blake, who was only fourth at Jamaican trials, was 10:15, was terrible. But yeah, Curly had not lost this year. Now he loses. Charleston, probably regretting not winning this race. Look how tight that is. But this to me was like, it was surprising that Curly lost. I don't think it's the end of the world. Sometimes it's he's coming off the 200 at USA's a week ago. Has to fly to Europe. Maybe he's not 100% of his game. Same thing with Charleston. Sometimes it's good to get a wake-up call. It's a little bit concerning, though. But, again, I'll say the same thing here that I said about the women's 100. It's not about who can run the best one-off race. Like, in this race, everybody's super tight. And for much of the year, like, very few people are everyone's running like 9.9s, right, John? Like, nobody's running super fast, particularly if they don't get a big tailwind. In still conditions, and the win in this race was 0.0, the top guys in the world are having a tough time breaking 9.95, which is a little bit surprising to me. But Worlds is going to be about who can run 2 races, on the same day and be the best in the second of the races. I mean, remember the Italian Marcel Jacobs barely got into the final of the Olympics on time and then ran a PB in the Olympics and won the gold medal. Curly strikes me as a strong guy with a 400-meter background. He's so big. I think he's pretty consistent. He's still my world championship favorite, but it's certainly wide open.
Yeah, I think I would have him as the favorite, but I don't know. I mean, Zonell Hughes, he's the world leader. I think his chances just went up because he's gotten down to 9.83, and that's not. I mean, we've had a bunch of guys break 9.9 once this year, but it's him and it's Omanyala at 9.84 who ran that at altitude, who are, their season's best are ahead of everyone. But I think you're right, Robert. I mean, I could see this being a time like 2017 where it's just someone, it's a slow final and someone runs 9.9 and wins it, but I think usually there's enough good guys at Worlds. It's going to take a time, probably in the low 9.8s, to win it. I think someone will be able to pop off and do that, but who will be that person? I don't know. I mean, I think Hughes, Simbine's in the conversation, Curly, Crevant Charleston, you have to respect. The Jamaican guy who just came on the scene and won their trials, Rohan Watson, 9.91. You got to put him in the mix. Noah Lyles, I'm not totally discounting. I mean, Coleman's around. It is, I would say it's as wide open as it's been for a while. And is that a little unfair to Fred Curly, though? Curly had been unbeatable in this event since May of 2022. This is his first defeat. He gets beaten by 100th. And now we're just saying, oh, it's a wide open event. Like, is that disrespecting him? Or is it, the winning time is only 9.97 here. You should be running faster.
You should be running faster. You guys, synced up now?
Yeah.
Yeah, this thing's wide open, John. Fred Curly talked a big game before USA, saying he wanted the double. Doesn't make the team the 200. People are saying, look, he's not what he was last year. I think this one sort of indicates this. The times weren't that fast, and the women ran fast, so we can't say, oh, the track was slow, it was a bad day, or whatever. These are sort of like mediocre sprint performances, I feel like, for the 2020s. Yeah, like I don't know. Anyone in the Craven Charleston, dude, this was his chance, man. He had it. The guy doesn't know how to lean. I don't think it was that close for the lean, but like he's not used to being in tight races.
Wait, what do you mean he doesn't know how to lean? He outleaned Coleman to win USA's.
Well, he got lucky there. He's not really good at getting the line. Some guys are really good at getting it on the line. Here, I thought he leaned too early. But yeah, like I mean, guys you've never heard of, Johan Blake, who I think is washed up, is like what 0.04 behind in this one, 0.05. It's kind of crazy that this race was what it was. You could have made some good money. We have no affiliation, but DraftKings had betting on this race in the United States. I think Simbidi went off as the third favorite at like plus 750. Curly was a huge favorite, like 70-80% favorite. So those odds will change for sure. And real quickly, back to the women's 100. Come on, guys. Shericka Jackson has run faster than 10.76. I think she's run 10.76 once and her 10.65. That's it. Maybe one other time. Like, there's no way she wasn't taking it easy. The most forgiving thing you can say about this race for her is she's working on her start. So she's so focused on that. She's sort of getting away from the still in game is to be as fast as possible at the end. But like, this is like a number 3, number 4 all-time performance for her. You can't tell me she's like sandbagging. That's just not fair.
Of course not. The men's 100 is going to be fascinating because there's 3 women that can win the women's 100. How many men do you think could win the men's 100? Curly, I'm putting Charleston in. Any of the Americans, pretty much, at least 3 of them. I'd probably put 2 Jamaicans, 2 Africans, a Brit. I mean, there's more people that could win it than will be in the final, probably, right? I mean, you could literally have a final where everybody could win it. It's really wild to think about.
And kind of reminds me of the 2021 Olympics, right? That was a fairly wide open race. We thought Bromell was the favorite going to that meet. He didn't even make the final. So it's similar to that year, I think.
Now I did think
if we're going to go that route, Olympics, people have kind of forgotten about him, but Marcel Jacobs has got to think he's got a chance now, man.
Yeah, I mean,
he sees this race and he's like, wow, I've been injured, but if I can get back to anything, I can beat that.
Yeah, look at what he did last year, right? He was too injured to run the semifinals at Worlds, but then a month later he bounces back and runs 9.95 to win the European Championships. If you're in 9.95 shape, you're a gold medal contender right now in the right race. So, yeah, if he's any sort of health, if he's any level of health, he's going to have a chance to win that as well.
By the way, I remember the person the up-and-comer that could theoretically challenge Jakob Ingebrigtsen in the future, besides Cam Myers. I mean, Cam Myers, 17.333 is pretty damn good. 18-year-old Reynold Kipkorir Chariot, the under-20 champion, was in the race today, and he did run a PB of 3:30. I think he was third, but he's clearly not ready to challenge Ingebrigtsen today. All right, John, I'm going to test your track and field knowledge. I don't know what year you were born in, but how old would you have been in 2003?
12.
Oh, so you might have been watching. Do you remember what happened in the men's 100 final that year?
Well, I know Kim Collins won, and I know the winning time was like 10:10 or something. It was really slow, but I didn't watch the meet.
Yeah, not that the guys, we do have some 9.8s, but it's crazy to me, and it's not like the drug testing was that great in that year, but I guess they were coming out with some new EPO tests. And when was Balco discovered? Did people get scared off?
That was later that year. Was it 10:10? Was I right on the winning time?
No, 10:07 with a 0.
Okay. Yeah.
10:07. So today's mediocre times got me thinking, could we have? When I always think about that race, how in the hell did that happen?
Also, third placer in this race today in the 100, Emmanuel Aseme of Cameroon. Where the hell has this guy come from? He's 29 years old. Well, the Tilasapaya, his profile doesn't have any results for him until 2018. 2 years ago, his PB was 10.32. He runs 10. He didn't even make it to Worlds last year, but he ran 10.08 at the Commonwealth Games. I also didn't realize Cameroon is in the Commonwealth, apparently. I thought they were like a French colony, but I don't know what the requirements are there. Runs 10.08 at the Commonwealth Games. Then he ran 9.96 at Le Chaux de Fonds a couple weeks ago, that Swiss track where everyone always runs suspiciously fast. And I was like, okay, well, I don't really count those times. Well, guess what? He ran 9.98 and almost won this race. So somehow this guy's a factor as well. I don't know anything. He looked like he was wearing one of those Portuguese club jerseys. So I'm not really, kind of curious what his coaching setup is. Maybe someone in the comments knows. But, I guess he was 100th away from winning today. So you can't totally discount that guy.
All right, let's move to the women's 800. Have we even mentioned this race?
No, we haven't.
Well, we thought that there was a big three in the women's 800. Ah Thing Mo, Keely Hodgson, and Mary Moraa. And after this race, I guess we still think there's a big three. It was kind of interesting. Mary Moraa was challenged more than I expected. But in the end, she runs almost a personal record. She runs 156.85. Her PB is 156.71. That's a big seasonal best for her. She gets a comfortable win by 0.9 of a second. Helimi Nakaye actually runs a Jamaican record, which
Ugandan record.
Excuse me, Ugandan record, which surprises me that the Ugandan record, considering they had the world champ a couple years ago, is only 157.78. Natoya Goal runs pretty well, 157.90. Sage Herder-Klecker, I hate to say it. I mean, she has a great race, seasonal best, 158.09, not too far off her PB. She's sort of developing into someone that runs well in Europe but not in USA's. But interesting race. Moraa controlled this thing, I thought, masterfully from start to finish. And if I'm going to have a complaint here, a rant, cue the Rojo rant music, I thought the commentating on this race was terrible. Disgusting almost. Like, Moraa went out hard, took the lead, controlled the race from the front, and they're like, "Oh, the commentators were and runs a world best, a seasonal best, leads a lot of people to like national records and personal bests." And the commentators are like, "Oh, she's not going with the rabbit. She's slowing this race down. She's really hard to run against." And they acted like she was running in the middle of lane one, and they're acting like she should just let Nakaya pass her on the inside. Like, I thought the commentating was like awful. Anybody else on this?
I wouldn't call it disgusting like you did, but I do think maybe they need to give her a little bit more credit. I thought she did a great job of controlling this. I do think Hannah England was correct in saying Mary Moraa is difficult to run against. She likes to get to the lead. She likes to hold on to the lead. She's very difficult to pass because she's quite fit. And I think that makes for an interesting matchup at the World Championships against Athing Mo, because Athing Mo is another woman who likes to get to the front and usually control races from that position. And Mary Moraa might fight her for that spot. If Athing Mo isn't in 155 shape, she might not be able to battle her to get that lead. So I think it's a really nice clash that we'll have between those two people, because I think they kind of like to run similar races. Is Mo fit enough to fight her off? Or are they both going to tire each other out trying to get the lead, and that allows Keely Hodgkinson to come through? I'm very excited to see how that all plays out in Budapest.
I think Mo's smart enough to run an even pace and not fight for it. Like, in the 800, you have one move. You don't want to fight. I think Moraa's getting a little bit smarter than her tactics this year than last year, where she seemed to be all over the place, and we've never seen anyone go from first to last. She has a little bit better sense of pace. I guess it's okay if the commentators are British. They probably like Keely, so they think, I don't know. It just seemed to me like they almost were like accusing Moraa of like running dirty. I'm like, she's leading the race from start to finish. Like, she can do what she wants.
But I don't think this run, Athing or Keely are worried about this run. I think Mary Moraa's role at Worlds, she could be a spoiler. I mean, what if she tries to get ahead of Athing Mo? That's where Athing Mo could blow her race if there's any way for her to lose. Like, sort of we're talking about how Jakob, blew it trying to hold off Chariot. Well, if Mary Moraa tries to get ahead, maybe that's the problem there. But I mean, it's a good run, but I think that the number three, we talk about the big three, I still think could she get the silver? Could she win? Of course, but I still think it's a big 2 with Mary Moraa sort of like the number 3.
One thing that, if you're an Al Thing Mo fan, I mean, you can be a fan of holding up. I mean, Coach Bobby Kersey said she may not race before Worlds. And he's not the only coach that likes to hole up before big championships and go in big training block. I mean, doesn't Jerry do that? But, and you can do pace work in practice, but to me, that's a little bit dangerous. I feel like in 800, you need some reps. And I've told the story that my first year of coaching at Cornell, Lou Dusey, the women's coach, who coached Morgan Usini to great success in the 800 and NCAA level, and she became the world number 1 in the 1500, said, hey, early in my career, someone told me their final 800 race, you want it to be their 25th rep of the season in a race. Seems crazy, but look at like go look up Andrew Wheating's great season when he ran that 330 at the end. They race a lot. Like, I'm just worried she may not, unless she's got a real natural sense of pace. Like, you need to know what a 55 feels like and a 56 feels like and a 57. Now, she's so good. She's got a lot more room for error than anybody else. Like, Mary Moraa may wipe her own race out. But if I'm Al Thing Mo, I want to run an 800 before then.
I think that
to me, it's a sign of unconfidence if you don't run it. Like, you're afraid that something's going to go wrong and lose her confidence, which seems weird to me because she ran a great last 200 in the 800 in the New York and Grand Prix. Then she did well in the 1500. But why would you want to blast one out just to?
Well, I think Mo and Bobby Kersey, I think both of them have shown they don't like to go and race unless they feel sort of ready to rock it. And I mean, based on what she showed at USA, she looks to be pretty fit right now. That and the New York race. But look, the thing about Mo, why she won the last 2 world titles, she's just been better shape than everyone else. Like Tokyo, you didn't really have to overthink that race. She was in 155 shape. So she just ran 155 in the final. It wasn't like a strategic masterpiece. It was just she was the fittest athlete. Now, last year, she had to tough it out. But she ran 156 as well. It's the same sort of thing. I think looking at this year's, if she thinks, okay, I'm in 155 shape, I'll just pull away from Moraa. It won't be a big deal. Maybe that's the way they're thinking about it. But if she was like in the same sort of shape as Moraa, that's something I would definitely want to do. I would want to go and mix it up. She's someone with a unique style. I think it would be good to get that experience. But her and Kersey may just be banking on the same thing that they've done last 2 years. Is, hey, when everyone's at their best, I'm the best. And, that's just all I got to focus on is getting in as good shape as possible. And that'll take care of it itself.
John, you're saying that Bobby and Al Thing don't like to race unless they're ready to go. So you're kind of implying them not racing means they're not ready to go, which is kind of what I'm implying, which seems weird. Like, why wouldn't they be ready to go? Now, John, there's some critics. There's been some interesting quotes. We got people from Kenya commenting on the comments today. Someone's ripping you, John. This is kind of off topic, but Jonathan Galt's saying he is hoping that the Diamond League final ends early so he can watch a Patriots-Dolphins game. Would be like Stephen A. Smith hoping the NBA finals early so he can go watch the ACC semifinals of the 100.
I mean, I don't agree with that analogy. Every NFL game is meaningful. The NFL is way more popular than track and field in general. And I contain multitudes. I can like track and field and football. I feel like I strike that balance pretty well. The seasons actually usually line up pretty well. But
wait,
is it a crime for me to say that I have things that I care about outside of track and field?
On this podcast, yes, it is. I have things outside of my track and field. Apparently, someone has sent me birthday wishes. I do have a birthday coming up next week. Someone by the name of Weldon Johnson has posted in the comments, "Happy birthday, Rojo. You're the number 1 on the podcast. Here's $10. Thank you, Weldon."
Wait a second. Did someone hack your YouTube account, Weldon, or are you actually doing this? And you can send someone $10 through YouTube? Is this a new feature?
There's a new thing. You can send money. I guess it gets pinned to the top of the chat. We can highlight these chats. I'm the first one to send money. Who should the money go to the rest of the podcast? Rojo or John?
I'll
it should
give
go to
any
John.
money.
Any money,
Any,
the rest of the podcast goes to Jonathan Galt. Any money for the podcast goes to Jonathan Galt.
I don't want to. I feel bad. Most of these people listening are already Supporters Club members, so if you don't need to throw money away. But
no, most people listening live
No,
probably
John,
aren't
Supporters Club members are listening as a podcast.
no,
Yeah,
a lot of them are
Supporters Club members
diehards, and I
listening
think they do both. But anyway,
I think what we should do is have a regular weekly format where people donate money, and John has to spend it on a date, and then he recaps the date live on the show the next week.
it's maybe we get to that later. I don't know. Talk about that on a weekly conference call. All right, let's get back to track and field. I did enjoy this 800. Yeah, it was good runs by Helima Nakai, Natoya Gould-Toppin, who apparently got married. Sage Hodekleka. Yeah, Robert, I am a little concerned about what you said because remember last year she was 7th in the USA final, then comes over, crushes it on the circuit, and finishes 3rd in the Diamond League final. And again, 4th at USA, she loses to Kayla Edwards, and now she shows up and she's 4th in this race behind women who are much better than Kayla Edwards. I would think she'd be good at the rounds because she has that 1,500 mile background. She's an NCAA mile champion, but I don't know. Let's talk about some of these other events that we had. How about this 1,500? The women's 1,500 that was before the TV window, because I find that a little bit more interesting than the women's 3K and men's steeple, where we know El Bakali is just going to crush everyone. We had 3 Ethiopians run 3:55 or faster. Hirat Meshesha takes the win. Burka Hailam, who is all of 17 years old, runs 3:54.93 second. Dariba Welteje 3:55.08 third. We had another Ethiopian make a huge improvement. Worknesh Marcel goes from 4:01.81 to 3:57.00. And then Lyndon Hall, Australian record, 3:57, breaks Jessica Hull's mark from Florence. Melissa Courtney Bryan and Gemma Reekie moved to 3 and 4 on the all-time British list. Both of them run 3:58. So I wish I could have seen this live because it wasn't a Diamond League event, but the times are out of this world.
The times were crazy, John. Until today, 2 Ethiopian women ever had been under 3:56. We have 3 at 3:55.08 or better. I mean, that's crazy. I think the game has completely changed. We've hinted at this. I think this is true. I hate to say 3:55 is the old 4 minutes, but 3:55 is the old 3:58. Maybe it's a good way. And that used to be a really good time. Now it's 3:55. Faith Kipyegon and crew, or I don't know what you want to call them, but man, this is like a B1500. I mean, it is a Diamond League meet, but it's crazy fast.
Well, you're missing the top woman in the world. You're missing the silver medalist from last year, Gudaf Sagai, and you're missing Sifan Hassan, who might be coming back to this event. But my question going into the meet was, there's a huge gap between 3rd and 4th at Worlds last year. And these are some of the women who are vying to kind of try to see if they can close that gap. Can any of them do it? They all did it. Meshesha, Hailam, and Welteje all made up that big gap. So we didn't have Ferweni Hailu, who won in Stockholm, but she ended up winning the 3,000 in a PB in this meet as well. So I think the way I see this event right now, you've got Faith Kipyegon, who's a lock for gold. And then I think there could be a big battle because Gudaf Sagai has been kind of the number 2 the last couple of years, but she ran the 10,000 at the Ethiopian trials and won it. So I don't even know what event she's going to be doing at the World Championships. She's also the defending champion in the 5,000. So she could realistically run any of those events. Sifan Hassan, same thing. She's run 3:51. It wouldn't shock me if she can get down to 3:53, 54 shape this year, but will she even run the 1,500? Laura Muir was beaten at the British Championships. She's been hit or miss. So I wouldn't be surprised. I think any of these women, Meshesha, Hailam, Welteje, or Ferweni Hailu, could be battling it out for as good as a silver medal at Worlds.
Well, you think Kipyegon, no matter what wins? What if Hassan runs the 15? 0% chance?
How's Hassan going to beat Kipyegon?
There's some possibility.
How's she going to do it? I don't see any out. Is she going to run away from her? She's going to run 3:49. she's going to outkick her. I just don't see it.
Probably right there with that analysis.
Yeah, Kipyego. I mean, she's the GOAT. She can win any style. So that's why she's the GOAT. But no, this is a good, exciting race. Well, it looked like it was an exciting race. The top three were only decided by 0.21 of a second. Like I said, we didn't get to see this on TV because it wasn't a Diamond League event, but there was super fast times. Is Silesia the new Monaco between Jakob running 3:27, all these women running really fast in the 1500? There's no men's 1500 in Monaco next week, so this was kind of the chance to get a fast one in.
The question I have about the women's 1500 is, I mean, it makes sense that a lot of people are running 3:55 to me, but how is Ethiopia picking the team?
It's a good question.
I mean, because right now, Tsegay wouldn't be on it. If you're going by seasonal best, nor would the woman who won the 3,000 today. By the way...
Wait, what do you mean Tsegay wouldn't be on it? Tsegay's the Ethiopian leader at 3:54.03.
Oh, okay. Stand corrected.
But the crazy thing is, like, we're talking about fast times by 17-year-olds or teenagers. Hylam's 17. But, well, she runs today. She's 7th in Stockholm in her last race. 3rd in Rabat's pretty good. 6th in Doha. Like, okay, she ran fast, but like when she's been in slower races, we haven't seen anything crazy. Same thing with Mashesha.
Well, Hylam won the mile in Oslo, Stockholm, right?
Better, 2nd in Ostrava.
Well, speaking of inconsistent results, back to the women's 800, Nikaye, who ran 157.78. By the way, I was looking up her personal best. It was like 158.0 when she won Worlds in 2019. But this year she was 3rd in Chorzów, 6th in Paris, 4th in Turku. And today she runs a PB. It's kind of reminding me of her 2019 season when she won the world title, 158.0. She was 5th in Monaco, 8th in Birmingham, 3rd at the All African Games. Doesn't run faster than 159.5 going into Worlds and runs 158.0 and wins it. Now, I'm not expecting her to get. I mean, to me, she's got to get down like another 2.5 seconds to be able to challenge Hutchinson or Mo. But some of these runners are kind of inconsistent. Let's just remind ourselves of that.
Okay, let's go to the men's 400. I thought this was...
John, you are right about Hylam.
Yeah, she won in Oslo. But I mean, these... I don't think any of those women have really separated themselves from each other. They've all kind of been trading off wins, that sort of thing.
Okay, guys, I need to get out of here soon. But there's an interesting comment from Rose Runners. I may sign off on this one. It says, do you think the Diamond League meets took Prakel over Hawker because of world ranking? Please tell me that Sam Prakel did not get into this meet over Cole Hawker. Someone please tell me that's not true. Thank you. Have a good show.
Well, I don't know. I didn't realize Cole Hawker was trying to run this race, but if that is the case, it's wrong. They raced last week. Hawker beat Prakel. Hawker's an Olympic finalist. He hasn't. His world ranking might be lower, but his PB is significantly faster. I mean, clearly, if I was a meet director, I would have picked Hawker over Prakel, but some of the athletes I've talked to have said that they're weighing world rankings more and more heavily in who gets those final spots in the field this year. So I don't know if it actually happened in this instance, but yeah.
John, well, first of all, I want to apologize about the sound. I don't know if I click some button here. I tried to do local recording as well. This will be cleaned up, though. If you want this as a podcast, join the Supporters Club. You'll get this as a podcast. It's better sound. Something's wrong with my lag. I keep interrupting John every single time. I must be behind like a second. It makes a huge difference on a live show. But at some point with the world rankings and stuff, they have to do it somewhat objectively. So if you're some Polish meet director and you're like, who are these American guys? Okay, well, one did something 3 years ago at the Olympics, but this guy's ranked higher. I'm just going to go off that. I see how they do it. The rankings, they need to get, it shouldn't just be like your last race out, but like the U.S. championships aren't weighted high enough. Like the rankings aren't perfect. So there's some, issues there. But yeah, like ask American fans who they won in this race. They're going to say Cole Hawker 100% of the time.
Yeah, the world ranking thing, I understand why they want to use it a little bit more, because you hear so many athletes complain that meet directors just play favorites. It's who a lot of these meet directors are agents or related to, have close ties with certain agencies. And so some athletes might get in because they have an in that way. It's not always about just who is the best runner, but so I don't mind factoring the world rankings in, but also at the same time, like these dudes just raced last week in their most important race of the season, and Cole Hawker beat him. So, and he's going to Worlds. So you would think that would be the guy they'd want in the field. Anyway, let's talk about this men's 400. I was very excited about it because we had Wade Van Niekerk and we had Alisson dos Santos making his season debut after, I believe he had this meniscus surgery. I know there were reports at the time saying he was going to have surgery. I don't know when it happened, but this was back in February. The news broke, and now it's July, and he's running fast. He ran 44.73. There's only 0.2 off of his PB of 44.54 from last year, which he ran at Mount Sac. He ended up running 46.29 in the 400 hurdles later that year. So the fact that Dos Santos is in 44.73 shape right now, I think is good news for all track fans who want to see that Dos Santos, Warholm, Benjamin showdown. And we will see him in the 400 hurdles in Monaco next week, at least against Warholm, maybe against Benjamin, assuming Benjamin confirms for that meet. I kind of think that Benjamin will wait until Worlds to race those guys, but that'll be an exciting one. But the winner here was Wade Van Niekerk, 44.08. His fastest time since 2017 when he won his last world title. It's just an awesome story. I noticed he was sporting some new tattoos. I'd kind of like to get the story behind that. I always want to know why people get tattoos, what the meaning is. But he looked brilliant in this one. They said on the commentary, Tim Hutchings described it as vintage Van Niekerk. I think we're getting there. Van Niekerk, he was kind of known for going all out every race, collapsing the track. We didn't quite see that today, but he's been brilliant in 2023. He's run 44 point in all of his races. He's won all of them. This is his second Diamond League victory of the year. The world leader going in, still the world leader, Muzala Samakonga at 43.91, pulled up lame on the back straight in this race. So I would say, and Michael Norman has been injured. Who knows what kind of Michael Norman we're going to get at Worlds, but I don't have that much faith on him given his injury issues earlier this year. I think you'd have to call Van Niekerk the favorite for the World Championships right now, and I think that's an amazing story. I mean, sprinters recovering from major knee injuries, you very rarely see them get back to the top level. He barely raced for 3 years following this surgery. 2018 didn't race at all. 2019, I think he had like one race. 2020, he had a couple. 2021, he makes it to the Olympic semis. Last year, 5th at Worlds. This year could be the year he returns to the podium. I think it would be one of the great comeback stories to be the world champion at 31 years old.
It's crazy, John. Like, I don't know how much perseverance he's had with this comeback. The injury was, 2017?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just nuts. Like, you're talking about it. It's been very methodical. 2020, 45.5. Next year, much better. 44.56. You started noticing him then. Oh, last year, you kind of noticed him again, obviously, World's Final, 44.33. This year, now he's down to 44.08. Or 44, what was it today?
44.08, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, I don't know. And, I mean, that's a long time away. I figured, with a knee injury or something, you would just, I clearly don't know anything about it. Like, you would be good to go, within a year. He's 31 as of yesterday. I feel like it just wouldn't take this long to regain the form. Like, your knee's either good or, I feel like you would know within a year or two, you're going to get back or you're never going to be what you once were. mean, I don't think he'll ever be what he once was, but I figured like you'll either be world class or you won't. You'll know within a year of the surgery.
No,
But it's taken 6 years.
I don't think it works that way though. Well, then, I mean, a lot of these sprinters, you have a major knee surgery like that, you're done. You just never get back to the same level. Johan Blake, he's never. I think it was a hamstring with him, but he's just never been the same since he had those issues in the mid 2010s. Someone like Van Niekerk, though, it kind of reminds me of Trayvon Bromell. Trayvon Bromell, look how long it took him to get back after that Achilles surgery, and that's because his initial surgery was basically they botched the recovery. He was supposed to be doing recovery, and he didn't have like a specific sports orthopedist, so he didn't do it. But yeah, to get back to this level, it's not just the initial injury, but a lot of times it's like when you come back from that much time off, you'll develop other injuries off of that, or it's not healing the way you want it to. I don't think it's as simple as, oh, he's not good after 1 year, he'll never be good again. But I didn't see this coming. I didn't think he'd ever get this far, get this good again. And how crazy would it be? You know who's also been super consistent the last few years in the global finals is Karani James. He's always around. Karani James won his first world title in 2011, just after his 19th birthday. He's now 30 years old. He turns 31 in September. He's run 44 points in his 2 races this year. I mean, how crazy would it be to see in the year 2023 Wade Van Niekerk and Karani James battling it out for the 400-meter gold medal?
Yeah. I mean, I like the guys that hang around. People are saying that, as you noted earlier, John DeSantis running well here was amazing, but there's somebody here, Jay Scottyman, in the comments saying arthroscopic meniscus surgery is very gentle. You could walk out of the hospital, but crutches are recommended for the first few days. So maybe that's the type of surgery he had. Obviously, all knee surgeries aren't the same, but yeah, people are also noticing. Wade could have been at a 42 something, 400 probably if he doesn't get hurt. The other, well, I don't know. Want to talk about the women's 400 here?
I do, because this was big news. Marilady Paulino got smoked. She looked awful in this race. Like, what happened to her, Wellman? She's been so consistent the last few years. It's a great story for the Poles. They had their hometown favorite, Natalia Kazmarek, ran a big PB, 49.48, to get the win. And Lika Klaver as well. I mean, it's not like Paulino got beaten by horrible runs. Like, Lika Klaver of Netherlands, PB for her, first time under 50 seconds, 49.81. But Paulina ran 48.98 in Paris a month ago. So for her to get third, she doesn't even break 50 seconds. She runs 50 flat. I was stunned by this result.
Yeah. It's like she wasn't even in the race. I mean, you sort of usually have like the Paulinos or the Sydneys, the sort of the best 400-meter runners. They're, 10 meters ahead of the else. But no, it's like that happened to Paulino today.
She was like sixth off the time.
Comments
she was way back.
They said, "Oh, she misjudged it." How do you misjudge it? She runs. This is the only event she runs. Like I don't know what happened. So maybe she's trying a different racing tactic or something. It's sort of crazy. But the winner, Kazmarek, people are like, look, she ran 49.4. There's a good chance whatever she runs at Worlds, she doesn't get a medal. I mean, that's just the wrong event this year. I mean, wow, it's crazy. There's some luster back with the 400, especially with Sydney trying it this year at Worlds.
Yeah, well, this race I was like, well, I think it's unfair to say just hand-seeding the gold medal, but Paulino, I thought was like her best. Paulino, would you agree, is the woman with the best chance to beat Sydney in the 400 at Worlds, given that Femke Bol's probably only doing the 400 hurdles?
I mean, I would have said so before today. I guess probably still think so. Like, you can have a bad race. Maybe she's sick, but who knows what's going on.
Yeah, no, she's
so
run well.
today. I almost, yeah, I feel better about this one for her than if she'd run like, if she runs like 49.6 and gets beat and it's kind of there the whole way. I'm like, I'd rather have you lay a complete egg. And okay, we'll just forget about it by the time Worlds come around. mean, people are pointing, 48.7 is 0.2 faster than Polino has ever run. Yeah, Sydney's a huge favorite for Worlds. I don't think she's going to lose, but it's best if there is a competitor. I guess she's
Right.
running
Well,
in
the other
Budapest. People are predicting.
the other thing about Sydney is we said she usually makes a jump from her regular season to USA's, which she did. She also usually makes a jump in the 400 hurdles from USA's to Worlds or to the Olympics, whatever. So yeah, we've got Ron here in the comments saying Sydney is going 48.3 at Budapest. Wouldn't shock me. I do think she's great at running her best in the championships. So heavy favorite. I'm trying to think. Would I call Sydney a heavy favorite at Budapest? Like if you gave me Sydney versus the field at the World Championships, I think I would take Sydney. So yeah, I think it's fair to call her a heavy favorite. Okay, well, we didn't talk about.
I don't think really much needs to be said.
Yeah, I mean, Ferwani Hailu stepped up. She's better known as a 8:15 runner, and she runs 8:26 here in the 3K. That's a good run for her. But I was a little surprised Lemlem Hailu, who's the world indoor champion in this distance, is only third. But she ran 8:29. Those pretty good times. But I don't think these are going to be the story in the 5K at Worlds is going to be Beatrice Chibet and maybe Sagai Hassan, Faith Kipyegon. I don't think these are going to be the women who are battling it out for the medals. So I don't think we need to talk about it that much. Likewise, the men's steeplechase, we had Sufyan El-Bakkali win just a ho-hum 8:03. I mean, he ran well. The only guy I think who has a shot at him is Goma, if Goma can break him, but El-Bakkali just doesn't lose these kind of races. So I don't know if there's that much to say about his race either.
Yeah, I mean, these are sort of. Well, Bakkali's obviously a contender at Worlds, but when you're that much better than somebody else at the race, it's almost like uneventful. Or it is uneventful. People are complaining about CNBC showing only 90 seconds of the women's 3K. I get it. They got to take commercials. At some point, show the women's 1500 instead. But I think we don't want to harp on the TV stuff. There's so much stuff crammed into two hours. So if you want to watch it all, just get the Peacock feed. If you don't have Peacock and you're a track and field fan, that's fine. But if you have Peacock and you can put it on your Roku or whatever, like you get the international feed, you're going to get the entire race pretty much, except when they jump away to the pole vault for a second.
Yeah, they show field events, but if you were going to cut parts of a race from the TV broadcast, that would be the event I'd be cutting. That or the men's steeple. So I can't have a huge complaint. Yeah, definitely Peacock, certainly worth the money as a track and field fan. Plus, you got soccer as well. You can watch all the Brighton games once they start dominating again. All right, well, anything else from this meet? We've got 2 meets next week. Monaco on Friday and London on Sunday. The timing of the London Diamond League, I just don't think is great. It's like the third most important British sporting event of the day, behind the British Open and behind the Ashes cricket between England and Australia. But it does sound like they've got like 40,000 fans showing up, or they've sold 40,000 tickets. So I'm actually impressed they could do that many numbers given the other stuff going on in British sport that weekend. But we can preview that all on the regular podcast Tuesday. Any final thoughts from Silesia?
I mean, it's a great meet in the sense we wanted to lead with 100 meters for a long time. But I think it's good, even for the distance fans. That shows if you have compelling matchups, people are going to pay attention. I was more into the women's 100 meters than anything else. And then with the men's 100, with an upset, I think it's good for the sport. A problem, sort of structural problem with our sport is that the favorites almost always win. So I think Fred Curley losing makes it a lot more interesting. Marcel Jacobs has got to be feeling good. One other point on these Irish guys, John. People were skeptical. Phelan, am I saying that right, John?
Yeah.
That guy's, every time I see him, all he talks about is other people doping. Like other running groups and stuff. He's the most skeptical guy I've ever seen about. So if that's all a charade, God bless us. But like that guy's like, oh, that group? Oh no, I'm suspicious as hell. I'm like, really? Wow, like all these American training groups. And I don't think he's trying to fool one over me, but I think we can talk about some of these other races on the regular podcast. But a guy who doesn't score at MCAs running 13:01, the game has changed for sure. Random Ethiopians running running 3:55 or whatnot. Wow. But John, people here are commenting about the Wimbledon coverage. I've seen you glance up.
Wait. I don't want to hear
Do you
anything
have
about
Wimbledon on?
Wimbledon. I don't know if it's going on right now still or what. I've DVR'd it on purpose. I'm moving my comments away so I don't even get spoiled about it. I don't want to know who wins because I DVR'd the last, I know it was 1-1, and I DVR'd the last 2 or 3 sets. So please don't talk about Wimbledon on this podcast.
I can't say.
Don't tell. I don't want to know who won. Don't tell me.
I don't know who won, John.
All right, then let's keep it that way.
Saw Matt Rocket get smashed.
Don't spoil about it. Don't spoil me. Wait, someone smashed a racket. Who's more likely to do that? Of Djokovic and Alcaraz?
John, thank you.
I'm guessing it's Djokovic, but all right.
All right, guys, I apologize. I think I clicked the wrong button on my thing. I don't know what was with my lag today. There we go. I'm trying to wrap it up, and John's cutting me off. But thanks for listening. If you want us as a podcast, go to letsrun.com/subscribe.